Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. I have no idea what this is going to look like. My viewfinder famously is upside down because this camera is very broken. I can barely see myself because the camera is so far away and the light in here is not great right now. But I got very excited to film this video, so I'm just going to do it now, even though it's after 9 o'clock in the evening and I should probably be heading to bed soon. Here we are. So, last week this video went up, in which I told you that my style is a Venn diagram. I've had an epiphany that my style feels like it is a Venn diagram. And I explained it pretty well in that video. I think it was pretty well. I hope so. But basically, I felt like I had 3 circles in my Venn diagram. One that was colourful, one that was sort of folksy, and one that was sort of librarian. And then, what with it being a Venn diagram, I feel like there's overlap. So between the colourful and the folksy, we have sort of like eclectic grandpa, grandma core, that kind of thing, if we want to talk about the course and the aesthetics. Between the sort of folksy and librarian, I feel like we have more cottage core, maybe hobbit core, some academia thrown in there as well. And then between the librarian and the colourful, I also had a good argument for what would go in that sort of overlap section. And I filmed that video a while ago. I'm filming this a few weeks in advance before this is going up, and even that one going up. And I wanted to give some examples from my actual wardrobe of items that I feel fit into those categories, at least into the actual circles. We'll maybe touch a bit on the overlap as well. And like I said last week, which for me was like 3 weeks ago, and it's also 2 weeks away, it's all very confusing, time. Like I said in that, I don't think every single item in my wardrobe, which is pretty substantial, fits into any of those categories, and I am perfectly fine with that, but I wanted to have the Venn diagram as sort of a, not a blueprint, but just a way of looking at my wardrobe, a way for me to analyze my style, I guess, or at least some aspects of it. So without further ado, I am standing in my wardrobe. It extends all the way back there. I have a shelf back there. This rod extends back to the shelf and to here. And then next to me here is a rack that isn't going to stay here, but it's a rack of currently unworn hanging items. When this video goes live, I hope that I've worn more of this. You can't even see. You can see about half of it. I hope that I will have worn more of it. Hopefully, if you've seen any of this in a video, it was probably filmed after this. So just bear that in mind. Okay, I want to start with what I'm wearing. Actually, I wasn't going to start there, but let's. I am today wearing this dress. It is a dress I got in Japan. It's a pale beige dress with some embroidery on the top right here and a little cinching at the waist and also buttons all the way down the front. And I've put a white turtleneck under it. And I feel like that takes the dress a little bit away from being folksy, or at least the version of folksy I have in mind for my wardrobe. The folksy I think I dress like, basically. It takes it a little bit away from just that towards the librarian side. Because the turtleneck, for some reason, for me personally, and I think if I flipped it, if I wore the turtleneck on top of the dress instead, and, you know, put a belt in the waist and like just the sweater around a bit, I think it would go very far away from the folksy and more towards that librarian-y, but maybe stopping somewhere in the cottagecore zone. Maybe. I feel like a lot of the cottagecore that at least I see is very summer. It's very spring summer. It's bare legs and frolicking in the fields, and I don't tend to wear turtlenecks when I do that, but I also don't tend to do that, so that could be on me. But yeah, I feel like this really veers more towards the librarian side, or maybe stopping in that space between folksy and librarian. The turtleneck for me could also be academia, but I don't feel like this dress is really giving academia to me again. But again, if it's in that middle space between folksy and librarian, I have put both academia and cottagecore there, so maybe I don't have to decide. Now, another item in my wardrobe that I feel is definitely solidly in the folksy is this dress, which is not buttoned, just imagine that it is. This I also got in Japan. It's this beautiful checkered dress with some nice little puff sleeves, gorgeous buttons down the front. It's fitted at the waist and then flares out, and it's really long. It's mid-shin, almost maxi length. It's really, really pretty, and it's definitely giving me that folksy vibe. Now, moving on from that and into the overlap between the folksy and the colourful, I want to pull out this skirt. This skirt I got this summer. That's the front, and it has buttons on both sides. It confused me. This is, again, for me, that very folksy kind of silhouette, especially when I'm wearing it. It doesn't look like a lot on the hanger, but when I'm wearing it, it's very nice. It has a very fitted waist, and then a quite voluminous skirt. And then, if I can show you this with just the one hand, on the side here, it has a little bit of ruching, and like you tie up the outer skirt, and then there is, I need to back up, and then there is a lining underneath that has an extra layer of frill and poof at the bottom. I don't think I'm showing that very well. So definitely folksy in my book, but more towards the colourful side than the dress I showed you and the dress I'm wearing. And can folksy just be colourful on its own? Definitely. Do I think that this skirt screams, what did I say, eclectic grandpa and cottagecore grandma? Is that what I said? Chaotic grandma? Grandma-core. It's just grandma-core. No, I don't think it does, but it has the more colourful side of the folksy. And it's not only eclectic grandpa and grandma-core that to me fits in the overlap between colourful and folksy. Now, if we want to talk colourful, I don't know how well you can see the shelf behind me. I'm going to try to turn on the light and see if that helps. That does make it a bit better, but I still can't stand there because I'm blocking the view. So let me grab some pieces. I feel like I can't talk about colourful and my style and not bring up my linen and cotton trousers. My favourite pair of trousers I've had for a few years now. They are so good. They're so high-waisted. They're so hot pink. They're very, 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 very nice. I love them a lot. Definitely colourful. With all that being said though, even though I definitely do like dressing in a very colourful way, even though today's outfit, not a very great example of that, even though I like dressing in a very colourful fashion, at least a lot of the time, these to me do not solidly have to be in that circle. They don't only have to be in the colourful circle, even though they definitely fit there. I could see these going towards the folksy side, like not fully folksy, but with pieces that put him sort of in the middle there, with the eclectic grandpa and grandma core, this skirt sort of thing, not these two together, but in that sort of overlap. I do see them worn that way. I do see myself wearing them, potentially wearing them that way, and also veering onto the other half side of the Venn diagram with colourful and librarian. I don't know what I foresee, what word I used last time. I think I used a word to describe that overlap, and I'm completely blanking on it right now. I apologize for that. I'll put it on the screen if I did actually say something smart in that video in regards to that. But this with a really chunky sweater. For example, this one. This I recently thrifted. I haven't worn it yet. I don't think I can unfurl it very well with just the one hand. We will see. It's a large wool sweater with purples and greens and a navy on there. It's not actually black. And some like turquoisey green kind of colours. And mostly grey, like the sleeves are very grey. And up here is very grey. There's no pink in this, but I feel like these two together could go in that space between colourful and librarian and work really well together, even as items, even as like silhouette of them. I'm not sure that linen trousers and a wool sweater complement each other really well in terms of like climate and season I'd wear them in, I guess. But I like the idea of them together, and I think that's it. Even if I didn't say that, that is now the word for that overlap. It's artsy. It's not a core the way I talked about cottagecore or grandma core, but I could see these pieces working together in an artsy way, and I would really like to have an artsy side to my style. I don't know if I would actually describe myself that way, but also my favorite silhouette, my favorite outfit formula that I've used this year and loved this year, I don't think I wore much of it previously, is pants like these, fit at the waist, very soft fabric, kind of wide or at least straight in the leg, lots of movement to them, and then some sort of colourful top, usually a t-shirt, and then a big oversized shirt, like this one, for example. This remains unworn, I just recently got it, but an oversized button down like this, usually worn open, I think that has an artsy flair to it. I've never used the word artsy to describe what I've been wearing when I have done that outfit formula, but now that I think about it, I think it makes sense, and I really do like it. Now, with all that being said though, I definitely think that this sweater, even though it's colourful, could really lean grandma core as well, for some reason, in a way I like. You know, I'm not bashing on grandmas, I'm not saying that all grandmas dress like this, and if they did, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But I really think that even this combination could veer artsy, potentially, or even grandma core. And they are on different sides of the colourful circle, one leaning librarian and one leaning folksy. And I don't know if I count these as folksy. Not really this either. I think if this had been knit in more of a Fair Isle type knit, like that kind of stuff, I would have thought of it as more folksy. It is not knit like that, but I'm getting that kind of visual. Okay, moving on. I hope you can see some of the stuff in there. I do also have my axolotl dungarees back here that you've probably seen before. I have some blue linen and viscose pants. I have the checkered pants I got in Japan. I'm going to put some images on the screen for you to not mess with this entirely. I have some green linen pants, which these are a fainter green. Like they're not faint, but they're not as bright as the pink ones, for example, as the axolotl dungarees, for example. But I really love these. They're so comfortable. They're such a good color. I love them a lot. I feel like the colorful circle is the easiest circle for me to talk about because I can go colorful and colorful and colorful, you know? It's very clear that they are colorful. And then I think it's a little bit more difficult for me to pick some of the other categories. I feel like I've talked the least about librarian. That might not be true, but I have this new to me skirt, which has lost a button, so I need to replace that. This is a midi length, almost maxi length. Can you see that? I'm not used to filming in this space, and this is a big wooden block that can't be moved, and it's a bit of a problem. Even so, a long, long, long skirt. It's a elasticated back of the waist, which I really like this. I really like elasticated back of the waist and then a smooth looking front of the waist. I have some pairs of pants that look like that as well, and I think it's a great look. It makes it both very comfortable because it has the elastication, but it looks put together in the front. It's like the mullet of clothes, of bottoms. It's business in the front, comfort in the back, which is exactly how you describe a mullet. Even so, it's this white and black, very, very, very faintly checkered skirt. It has some nice pleating, it's long, it's nice, and I foresee myself wearing this with white button-downs, maybe a vest, and just really leaning into that, to me, librarian style. Now, I've been talking for quite a while and I do want to wrap this up soon, but I want to show you one more piece. It's very new to me, I haven't worn it yet, hence why it's currently on this rack, and I'm going to hide it from you while I talk about it for a little bit. I feel a little bit uncertain about this item. I'm very happy to have it. I feel like it's very pretty. I feel like it's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And I know that I said with the Venn diagram, and I know that I've said recently in other videos as well, and generally over the last year and a bit at least, like, oh, I feel pretty at home in my style. I don't feel like I veer off of it super much. I feel pretty confident in what I like and what I want. And I've said that it's rare for me to make purchases these days that don't end up working style-wise, I guess. Like, there are things I've gotten that I've outgrown. That happens, that's just my body. But I also feel that I get things that work for me silhouette-wise, color scheme-wise, aesthetic-wise, you know? And this is a bit of a wild card because I have said that I'm not really a blazers person. I've had a black blazer, I've had a brown blazer, and I had this like velvety red blazer that was like a Christmas blazer, and that was honestly the one I liked the most because it didn't feel so structured, I guess. It was still a blazer, still had like, you know, the blazer shoulders, not with shoulder pads, but like there was a shape to it and had lapels, and it was velvet, and I really liked it, but it didn't get enough wear. I only wore it around Christmas time and I outgrew it, so it had to leave. The black one I haven't had for years, and the brown one left my wardrobe earlier this year because I just was not wearing it. I forced myself to wear it late last year. I didn't enjoy it. It left. But I do own my tailcoats, which are over here, which I guess you could argue is a black blazer, but since it's tailcoats, to me it's so much more than that. And I also have this. This is like a cropped, short-sleeved blazer, which, as you can tell, pretty colourful, pretty bright. You know, it's very, very pretty. I got this secondhand 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. I got this on my first outing after getting my license at 29, which was very nice. Even so, I don't wear blazers a lot. I don't have a lot of blazers. I have these two, if we count the tailcoats. This only gets worn once or twice a year. It's not a staple of my wardrobe, but I found this. This is a checkered blazer, which checkered is something I've really gotten into this year. And probably before, but this year, the amount of checkered items I've gotten this year is very high. It has a reddish base and then just a bunch of colors on it. And it has a bit of an oversized fit, which I don't want to be swallowed by it, but I'm also thinking I do like my oversized shirts unbuttoned on top of a top. Maybe this could work in the same way. So with this being colourful, I'm definitely thinking that it goes in the colourful circle, yes. But also a blazer feels a bit librarian-y. And that overlap between colourful and librarian that we just named artsy, this could work there. And also for a really well-dressed grandma or grandpa, it could work there as well. But there we have it. I hope that this made some sort of sense. I hope that if last week's video was a bit confusing with what I meant with my Venn diagram, if it didn't, I'm sorry, but I hope it was at least enjoyable. I would love to hear down below if you agree with my take on the items I've shown you in relation to my Venn diagram, but I would also love to hear if you have a Venn diagram. Regardless if you've seen last week's video or not, I hope you have a grasp of what I mean with my Venn diagram, and I would be so curious to hear if you have one of your own and what you would name your circles. And it doesn't have to be a triple Venn diagram, it doesn't have to have 3 circles. It could be 2, it could be 5, it could be multiple or fewer. It could not really be 1, because I wouldn't call one circle a Venn diagram, you know? But there is that quote of, the Venn diagram of and is a circle. I know. But I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll be back with another video soon, so I hope to see you then. Bye!